listening to a podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants with hosts Willie Dills, Chad King, and Ben Lee.
Let's go Giants! SF Giants! Let's go Giants! SF Giants! Dedicated to the greatest team in Major League Baseball history, the San Francisco Giants. This is Torture Cast.
Welcome, everybody, to the Torture Cast, the podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants. Today is September the 13th. This is episode 38, the Brian Wilson episode. Ben just put it, a Beardly episode. And
a very Beardly episode. It's like a Christmas episode.
I'm going to say fear this episode. That's what I'm going to say. And speaking of, welcome, Ben. Ben is back joining us again. We've missed you. And we're glad you're able to join us tonight. A lot to talk about, so glad to have you here.
Good to be here. Definitely lots to talk about, and most of it good for a change, which feels awfully nice.
And, of course, also joining us is Chad King. Chad, what's up, buddy?
Hey, man, I don't have to whisper tonight. My kids are upstairs. They're not in bed. So I might yell a little bit.
Let it all out, man. Let it out, dude. Why not?
I was going to say, all of a sudden, Noah's going to come downstairs and be like, why are you yelling? You'd be like, baseball. He'd be, oh, okay, and go back
That's
upstairs.
fine. Hey, if my kids join the podcast, you guys don't mind. I know that.
Absolutely.
They're 7 up, guys. They're 7 up.
Games.
With 19 to play.
Yeah,
what the heck?
7 games up. Let's just jump right into it. I actually posted this on Facebook today because Chad, you created a pretty cool little graphic, the 7 up. With a baseball on it, and I thought that was pretty fun. I decided to look back and see, because this is by far the biggest lead we've had all year. So I decided to look back and see how far back we'd been at some point this year, because it was a long time ago when the Dodgers were extremely hot and the Giants were not cold, but hovering right around 500 for a while. And on May 26th, the Giants were 7.5 games back, and that was the farthest back we got this year. Since that time, they've gone 57-39, basically turning that margin around. And the Dodgers have gone 43-54 since then. And let's also point out that the Dodgers had a very easy beginning to this year as far as the schedule goes. So, and they lit it up, though. Easy schedule or not. Ethier was going.
They murdered that schedule, though, in fairness, and that's what you got to do. It's not something we've always felt like we were doing, and so credit to them. But now they're starting to wet the bed a little bit.
No, they're struggling hardcore right now.
They started at 9-1, and I remember. I mean, I might even go back and listen to a couple of our May podcasts. We were kind of like, well, they're 7.5 games up with a month in. That's a big lead, but maybe we can chip away at this. But this is a 14.5 game swing we're talking about since May. I mean, it's huge.
No, that's massive.
It's huge.
I mean, I can't think of many races where that's flip-flopped that large over the course of the season. I mean, you talked about the Braves overtaking a 9-game deficit. In what, 93 was that? Was that 93?
Yeah, it was 9 games at the All-Star break.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's pretty massive. But this is 14-game turnaround. This 14-game swing, 14 and a half, really. And that's a ridiculous number to think that we have outplayed them by that much since that time. So Giants fans have to be feeling real good. And I used to battle a couple of Dodgers fans on Twitter a little bit, and they would still cling to the fact that they thought the Dodgers were just a better team overall. And they've really quieted down lately. There's not a lot of pushback.
Couldn't tell you why.
Yeah. I believe they've lost 6 out of their last 7 now, right? And
maybe that's why.
And they're playing St. Louis tonight. And looking at the records the rest of the way, they play the Reds, they play the Nationals. They've got a much tougher schedule than we do. We play only the teams in the West, which the Dodgers are the only other team with a winning record out of the West. So I went and took a look at the records that our two teams have against those teams remaining. And the Dodgers actually, considering the fact that they're playing much better teams, actually do have a winning record against all the teams they have left. They have 31-26 record against those teams. Conversely, though, the Giants have a 32-21 record against our remaining teams. So, Chad, your math here Which, go ahead and just give us the math of what you said had to happen for the Dodgers to overtake us the rest of the way.
Right. So we got a 7-game lead with 19 to play. Magic number is 13. So even if the Dodgers ran the table and went 19-0, the Giants would only have to go 13-6. I mean, obviously, they may not get to that mark, but that's not impossible. I mean, the Giants and other teams have definitely won 13 out of 19 games before, so that's certainly not impossible. Now, back in the realm of reality, the Dodgers are not going to go 19-0. So let's flip it and look at the Giants going 1 game under 500 the rest of the way. So let's assume they go 9-10. It wouldn't be great ball, but they'd be kind of treading water. The Dodgers would still have to go 16-3 just to tie and 17-2 to win. So, I mean, the Giants, they don't only have to play just 500 ball to basically lock this thing up. I mean, I think they could win only 6 or 7 games the rest of the way, and they would still win it because there's no way the Dodgers are going to go 16-3 the rest of the way. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, that to me makes me feel real good. Obviously, as Giants fans who have witnessed the 1993 season and not making the playoffs after winning 103 games and feeling really good about a team, we obviously are never going to feel completely comfortable, but with 19 games to go, this is about as comfortable as you can get, really. I mean,
this is as comfortable as it can get with 19 games left to go. Like you said, I'm still, even though the Giants finally, put it away 2 years ago, I still have that pessimism in me. I just have this weird feeling like, remember the Giants overtook the Padres. It wasn't this late in the season. I was just looking up the standings, by the way. After, with 19 games remaining in 2010, the Giants were only 1 game back of the Padres. So this was basically after that huge monumental collapse by the Padres. If you remember, the Padres lost 10 in a row.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They completely
in August
went
/ September, and that allowed the Giants to sneak in. So this is past that point, but there's still always that part of me that is like, 19 games to go. The Dodgers would literally have to play out of their flippin' minds on top of the Giants playing 500 ball.
And if we hadn't seen the Rockies do that before, I'd feel a lot better about it.
Exactly. The Rockies have done it before, the Red Sox and Yankees. I mean, you look at different parts in history, they are rare and, they're very unlikely, but they have happened before. People have overtaken 5-game leads with 10 games to go.
We had a couple last year, too. Everything came down to 162
last year was
right
ridiculous.
there.
St. Louis.
So that's what worries me, and especially because the Giants have the Dodgers in LA, the final series of the weekend, or the final weekend of the series of the year. And I know I'm being pessimistic about this, but if you subtract 3 games, because that's all the Dodgers have to be within going into that final weekend. So they have to be 3 games or less going into that final weekend. We're 7 games up. The Dodgers absolutely could chip away 4 games in the next 16. And if they do that, they're mathematically possibly could sweep the Giants and tie them. So I'm just saying that there's a lot of Giants fans that are dancing in the streets saying, we got this thing locked up. The LA Times has said that the race is over. Other websites have said the race is over. It's just my pessimism in me that is just fearing some convolution of crazy things that's just going to lead to a run of Dodger wins and Giants losses. But like you said, the Dodgers have the tougher schedule on paper. They have the Nats and the Reds on the road. And, of course, they have the Cardinals the next 3 nights in Chavez Ravine. So even though they've played well against those teams earlier in the year, we're talking about the current Dodgers. And the current Dodgers are flailing. I mean, just falling on their face. They lost yesterday by a run with Adrian Gonzalez getting on a called third strike in the 9th inning. And the night before, they lost 1-0 with Adrian Gonzalez ending the game with a called third strike in the 9th inning. So they're not looking good right now.
No.
That's not flailing. He's not taking the bat off his shoulder on called third strikes.
That's
right.
They're fine. They're fine. Plenty of plate discipline.
The strike is so good, they're calling all 3 strikes on 1 pitch.
That's right.
How bad
It's amazing. It's never before seen. By the way, the Dodgers and the Cardinals are tied currently as we speak, 1-1 in the bottom of the 3rd. So
sorry, you mean the Cardinals and the entirety of the Boston Red Sox roster?
Yeah, the Cardinals and the Red Sox are playing an interleague game right now. and they're tied up 1-1. It is crazy because the Dodgers made all these moves, and we definitely all expected them to give us a fight, right? I mean, we did not think. I still held a belief at 5 games up, at 4.5 games. All those numbers that they were going to pull within 3 by the time we got to that final series. I still felt like it was going to go down to that last series. We might go into that last series not even having to care.
I hope so.
We might go in there and we might start Brad Penny. And we might, you know what I mean? We might just say whatever. It might get to that point.
All the scrubs, yeah.
Yeah, and that would
start Eric Hacker for a game.
Yeah, why not? It might get to that point, And that
might be nice to see him play a game.
I think it's crazy to think that the Giants easily could have swept Colorado. They lost 1 game by 1 run. And the series against the Dodgers, even though they took 2 out of 3, and we're extremely happy with that. The most unlikely loss they had was the one that Kane pitched. They could have won that one. They were up in the 8th inning, and they ended up losing because they scored 1 in the 8th and 1 in the 9th. I mean, that's an additional 3 games between those 2 games. They could have been up by 10 right now. So, I mean, it could have been much better, but I'll take 7.
Yeah. Now we went into that series up 4.5, correct? So we went in that series knowing that we were going to leave that series in first place. But the Dodgers had to feel after they won that second game that, hey, we'll get this down to 2.5 games, and everything will be fine.
Well, on paper, it was Zito versus Kershaw.
Exactly.
And it was like, oh, that's a loss. But Kershaw was scratched at the last minute.
Yeah, hip injury, which I couldn't believe. I didn't know about the hip injury. I pull out my app and start listening to the radio, and I hear them say Blanton. Yeah. And I said, what? What the hell? And immediately I just danced in the streets. I was like, oh, my God, we can win this game now.
Yeah. I was up in Concord at my wife's parents' house. And we got there, and the game had been flipped on. And I looked, and I saw a guy in the mound that looked remarkably like me, kind of, middle-aged, kind of chubby, sitting on the mound and right-handed. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. Where's the tall, lanky lefty on the mound that is going to kick our ass? So, yeah, like, I did a little jig, too.
Why aren't I more scared? What happened?
Suddenly, I feel much happier.
Who's that soft white guy on the mound?
That was like a gift from God right there, just to say, oh, well, now we got a chance. And granted, if Zito pitched the way he did, Kershaw or not, we would have had a chance to win that game because they didn't score a run. Zito pitched fantastically, which right now we're kind of at the point where, and we'll talk about this later on in the show when we get to the Armchair Manager segment, but it's looking like maybe Vogelsong's the guy who's going to get shafted this year in the playoffs, which I can't believe I'm saying, to be quite honest with you. But the way things are going, it's very strange. Right now, Tim Lincecum has the best starting ERA in the second half.
In the second half for the Giants. Absolutely. At 3
Which is strange because his whip has got to be the most consistent in the sense that he's consistently walking one guy every single inning.
10 straight innings.
He has been fantastic at scattering walks. 1 per inning.
Yeah. Nope. No, he racks up the walks per game, and they aren't hurting him, which is what they were doing at the beginning of the year. Was he'd put them all together, and what do you get?
It's unbelievable to watch him walk 7 guys and give up 1 run.
Did you see what else he's done? He's won 5 consecutive road starts for the first time in his career this year.
Wow.
Really?
Cy Young. Give him the Cy Young.
He's never done that before.
Give him the Cy Young. Why not?
That's right.
Sure. I mean, they always put in the incumbent, right? So.
That's right. Exactly. The incumbent has the advantage. All right. So Giants.
Kershaw's hurt. Disqualified.
Absolutely disqualified. Hip injury? Come on. You're out of here. Giants versus West the rest of the way. LA has a bunch of games against some hard teams.
Although I would say the Cardinals are actually starting to so obviously we've mentioned our former coworker in Willie's case, who's a big Phillies fan. And so our buddy Anthony has actually been watching the wild card race really closely because the Phillies are starting to put some little fire under their rears. And the Cardinals are actually not really impressing a whole lot right now. I would love it if they've impressed right now and take out the Dodgers, but they're not impressing a whole lot now. And teams like Philadelphia and maybe even Milwaukee are starting to push their way into the wild card talk. And it is kind of exciting having the second wild card, but like the Cardinals right now are kind of like the Dodgers right now. They don't impress me the way that they did earlier in the year when Berkman and when like Freese and Beltran were really firing on all cylinders. Things are a little different right now. I feel like
Berkman basically went down for the year,
right,
and still probably will just get shut down because
which is a shame. But yeah.
Granted, they're tied right now for the wild card, but he's very tender at this moment in time, and I don't think St. Louis wants to risk the future of. I mean, he's getting up there a little bit, but he's still got a few good years left in him, and he's a premier player, so they don't want to lose that guy for the foreseeable future.
No.
To take a run at this where he might not even be able to play at his full capacity. So, but I mean, Philadelphia surprisingly 3 games out right now. They're above 500.
They had one day where everyone ahead of them lost all simultaneously. It was ridiculous, and so they're scooting a little closer all the time. It's really impressive.
And they're not the same team that they were either. I mean, they still have a lot of the same key. They still have a lot of the same key components. Like they still have some of those guys that have been around there for a long time. Obviously, the pitching.
You ditch Freddie Galvis, you ditch Mike Fontenot.
Yeah. but you
lose Nature Health to a broken toe.
They gave away everybody, and then somehow they're managing to pull this off. So it's definitely going to get interesting. And this second wild card is going to make things. There's a lot of teams right now. Arizona has a chance at it. San Diego is not mathematically eliminated. I mean, there's a lot of teams that can still do this because of the fact that there's 2 spots now. And it's very strange to think about it in that way.
A lot of people had really talked about a lot of teams being bigger buyers at the deadline because of this. The increased rush for the wild card spot. But I feel like there weren't a lot of teams that really went nuts on buying. I feel like it was mainly the Dodgers really went just kind of crazy, and everybody else made a couple of moves. There weren't a lot of big splashes like that one, not in the same way, at least.
Yeah, I mean, if you look, Pence was one of the biggest moves of the trading deadline, and
Pence and Scudero. I mean, and Scudero's only turned out to be one of the biggest moves because of how well he's played. Mm-hmm. But at the time, it was kind of like, oh, okay, Scudero. That's all right.
He'll plug up some
better than Orlando Cabrera. I'll take it.
Yeah, better than Orlando Cabrera for sure.
That is here forward my benchmark for everybody who's playing
anytime
on the team. Better than Orlando Cabrera.
Yeah, anytime we pick a middle infielder, we compare him to Hall and Cabrera, and we say, hey, all right, that works. But yeah, so it's gonna get interesting for a lot of other teams, and hopefully not for the Giants. Hopefully it does not get interesting, and we just keep rolling, and they keep sucking. And we're not really rolling either. Let's be honest. The starting pitching has not been fantastic lately. And we've had a lot of
leading the staff in the second half with a 3.33 ERA. No, we're not rolling pitching wise. No, not at all.
Now we are.
It's been offense and bullpen.
Yeah, no, we have been doing some pretty cool things with the offense lately.
I'm sorry, did you just say it's been offense and bullpen? I'm sorry, what team are we talking about?
It's not an offensive bullpen. No, I didn't say that.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, but the Giants' offense is legitimate, and if the pitching can find that groove and get back into where they're, which I feel like looking at the playoff records of Kane, Bumgarner, and Lincecum, we have to feel pretty comfortable that when those guys actually get into the playoffs, that they are going to find a way. These guys are competitors, So if our offense can, remain as consistent as it has been, we're going to be. Nobody wants to play the Giants right now. That's for sure. The team we don't want to play is the Nationals, although.
Yep.
The Nationals don't have Strasburg anymore, which is very, very convenient for everybody else and very confusing to me as to how this is possible. But I'll talk about that later as well.
I'm glad we don't have to deal with that.
I want to actually throw out some, though. Here's a question for you. There's a couple of players that I feel like I'm viewing very differently now than I did even as recently as a month or two ago. And I feel like chief among those, Panda, Hector, Belt, Vogelsong, I think and also just because we had sort of underestimated him when he first got brought onto the team, Scudero. Mm-hmm. I think those 5 guys, I'm looking at them all very differently right now than I did not that long ago. And right behind them, I think would be Crawford. But like Panda, Hector,
I completely agree.
Belt, I've totally changed my opinion on Panda, Hector, Belt, those 3 right there immediately. I would say I've changed my opinion on them very much in the last
a month and a half or so.
Month and a half. Yeah. I mean, and they've really gone in opposite directions. Panda has really, dropped off since he's come back. But I think you noted here that he's he was 0 for 10 in Colorado. I mean, no one should ever go 0 for 10 in Colorado.
Sense. Yeah.
That was bad.
And Brandon Belt, on the other hand, has essentially turned into a large ball of flame that roams the outfield periodically. I mean, and Belt has looked decent in left field as a defender, things he wasn't doing last year when he got put out there. And Hector has become his nickname, and it's incredibly appropriate. He's hacking like Pence without the ability to make contact, and it's not.
No, it's not pretty.
It ain't pretty.
The saving grace, though, when you talk about Hector, is the fact that he plays 1 out of every 5 days,
Right.
And he's a pinch hitter, basically.
And you have to hope
Yeah,
that
he
he's
only
not
has
gonna-
187 at bats this year.
Yeah.
That's not
True.
much.
True. He's being used by Bochy really heavily as a pinch hitter in situations where I feel like he's not the most appropriate batter at this current time based on the current way he's playing.
Yeah, he's definitely an overall one of the best bats we have off the bench as far as pure hitting ability and talent. But yeah, you're right. He's scuffling right now, and
I do think he's slumping a bit. I mean, at the beginning of the season, if you kind of presented me with a blank slate based on previous histories, yeah, I would totally take Hector off the bench, especially if I have Whiteside around to say, okay, I've got a third catcher in case we have to swap Posey later. Sure, I'd be happy to use Sanchez off the bench. Right now, though, every time Sanchez comes up to the plate, I'm not filled with confidence like I was before.
And guess who's our best pinch hitter right now? Aubrey Huff. What the hell?
Yeah,
What the
he's
hell's
been
going
hot
on?
lately. He had a couple of pinch hits in Colorado.
Yeah. What if he finishes the year over 200? I would be so excited for him to not be under the Mendoza line. That'd be
good for him. Especially, it's been a rough year.
yeah.
I'll always love Huff Daddy. So
He hurts himself patting people on the butt now. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, did you see that?
Yeah.
That was funny. That
Yeah.
night I saw that and I wanted to gift that, but someone beat me to
Yeah,
it.
no, it was gift all over the world already. But all right, so
that and Hunter Pence's faces, you were going to get beaten to that.
Oh, by the way, my the dive safety officer at the Monterey Bay Aquarium gave Aubrey Huff a tour of the aquarium about a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so he got his digits. And so now they're text buddies.
oh wow.
And so in my last feeding show dive at the aquarium, he was coming up to me. He's all, hey, check it out. And so he pulls out his iPhone and shows me their conversation. And so they were just texting back and forth. Hey, have a good game. Oh, okay, sweetie. It was like, did you pack your lunch? And I was like, oh man, I got to get in on this stuff here. I got to ask if I can get Huff's G-string or something for TortureCast.
Well, Huff is on the market now, so
I don't think I want to
Maybe he's
figure out
switching
where we're
teams.
going to keep a G-string anywhere around here.
maybe he's switching teams. You never know. All right, let's move on to the big question. We kind of talked about the week and everything like that and what's been going on. One thing that we should note, though, is the Giants on the road are ridiculous. And for some reason at home, not as good as they should be. But
Not as ridiculous.
They're
Yeah.
under 500 since the break, and
playing
they're
good on the
21-7
road.
on the road.
playing good on the road is – you can't say bad things about that. That's great. I mean, playing good on the road takes a special kind of team. And in the playoffs – let's be honest. In 2010, we clinched every single series on the road. Being a road dog is something that you should be proud of. Now, if they can get back to the home field advantage that they've always had, which I kind of feel like in a way is because our offense is now small ball, sure, and a little bit more speed, but we still have a lot of guys who get under the ball a little bit. And
And I mean, you're seeing it's not like 2010. We aren't relying entirely on Buster Posey and Pat Burrell to try and carry us with long
just
balls.
a massive amount of
But-
sudden home runs that came out of nowhere. Yeah, we don't have that right now.
Well, we don't have Pat Burrell, which everybody is more sad for.
Oh yeah,
obviously.
absolutely.
But yeah,
it's
the offense has been based a lot around like timely extra base hits, and that plays differently in AT&T than it does in other parks.
no, absolutely it does. And the thing is that on the road we seem to be able to hit with runners on base, whereas at home we just don't seem to be able to. And I don't know what that is. Some kind of mental weird thing. I don't know, but whatever it is, we hope that they kind of straighten out the home record and keep on rocking on the road. Let's move on. Let's talk about the Panda a little bit before we move on to Posey. Now, I'm of the mind that Panda is scuffling because he just is pressing. It doesn't look to me like he's hacking out of the zone quite as much as he's still kind of a little bit more disciplined than he used to be. But it's almost like he's not swinging aggressively. He's not hitting the ball hard.
He's so worried about not hitting the ball that suddenly he's not hitting the ball because he's so worried about not hitting the ball. Which
Yeah, he's kind of just pounding.
slumps are
weak
almost
ground
always
balls.
vicious cycles. If
Yeah.
somebody's not hurt, it's almost always a vicious cycle. That's the thing.
It's weak ground balls and it's basically getting down 0-2 a lot too. It feels like with Panda, where he's not able to just drive the ball with getting into a hitter's count. So you mentioned 0-10 in Colorado. I mean that's crazy, but the power numbers are way down. 3 extra base hits in a month since coming off the DL. Basically no home runs in like 150 at bats.
Well, Panda's always been perceived as about a 300 hitter.
Sure.
Right now, and when he came off the DL, by the way, he was at 300. Right now, he's at 276. Brandon Belt's at 273.
Yeah, and Brandon Belt was at 220 for the longest time.
Okay, so they're essentially the same batting average right now. Panda's
they're very
got
different hitters, right?
No, they're very different hitters. Panda's got 8 home runs. Belt's got 6 home runs. So, I mean, it's weird because, 2 months ago, I'd say Panda is twice the hitter that Brandon Belt is. But statistically right now, they're pretty equal.
They're like the same guy, yeah. And think about it, these are our corner infielders. These are the spots where you're supposed to get some power out of. And we're not getting the power, and we're getting a 276, 273 average. Not quite what we want out of those two positions, but Panda, we did all expect, I think, to hit 300 this year. And Panda does have the best batting average, unless Posey's overtaken him, of any Giants player career-wise for the last, 4 or 5 years now. So, I think we all know what he's capable of. It's either he's still getting bothered by some nagging stuff. He's had the hamstring, he's had the hamate. Basically, anything that starts with ham is no good for Panda.
The ham bone.
Yeah, the ham bone and the neck bone
connected to the knee
whatever,
bone. Yeah.
But
he's got the hack bone. Apparently,
he's got a lot of these problems with his health, and his weight has ballooned a little bit, and I'm a little worried. And I don't think it's time for the Giants to bench him. I think he's still our best option at third. Unless Arias just starts to tear it up again. But I still think he's our best option there. I think maybe, though, once the season's over, it's time to sit him down and say, remember that Camp Panda thing we did? Remember how last year you had the most wins above replacement of any player on the Giants? Remember that? Yeah, do that again. Let's get you back.
2009, he was slimmer, had a fantastic year. 2010, he got fat, even though he won the World Series. He had a down year. Camp Panda 2011, he had his career year. Mm-hmm. And this year he ballooned again, and he's kind of tanking after the All-Star break.
Well, there was talk after last year.
There is, a relationship between his weight and his performance.
Absolutely.
I don't know how you can argue that it's not.
No, the numbers absolutely back that up. And I remember after last year, they said, we're not going to do Camp Panda again. Because
they thought that he would keep it up in the offseason, and then he got hurt a couple times, and that'll totally mess with you.
Yeah, right. Like he's got it figured out now.
He's drive through at McDonald's, but whatever.
That'll also hurt you in a very different way.
But he's got to at this point in his career, whoever his agent is and his handlers are need to say to him, no, you have to do this every year. You're gonna have to work your tail off for the rest of your major league career because you have a weight issue. And so I'm sorry. You're just going to have to do it. You're just going to have to deal with it. And I really hope that the right
means millions of dollars, dude.
Exactly. Millions of dollars to you. If you have more years like this year, when you're hitting 276, you're going to be an everyman at third base. You're going to be a fan favorite in San Francisco. But when one day that day comes when you go to another team, they're not going to give a crap about how you hit 330 one time. And they're not going to give a crap about what you did in 2011. They're going to give a crap about what you're doing right now. Here in San Francisco, people wear the Panda hats. In other cities, that's not going to happen when he gets there. So he's got to maintain. He can be a fantastic third baseman if he just puts in the work. So, well, let's talk about the guy who's not having problems. Let's talk about Posey. Now, there was an interesting article in Sports Illustrated today. SportsIllustrated.cnn.com. Is that what it is?
Yep. Yeah. SI. Yeah, Sports Illustrated they're basically owned by CNN. So
yeah.
That's what it is.
There was an argument there about how Posey has now overtaken Cliff Corcoran's basically his vote for MVP in the National League over Ryan Braun and McCutchen. Definitely McCutchen. McCutchen's fallen off in a big way. Still hitting real good though. Still hitting 340 for the year.
I'd still take McCutchen anytime, but I will agree that he's not in the middle of a hot streak the way Posey is, and Posey's really maintained it for a very long time this entire second half of the season.
He's not on a first-place team as well.
Does it still count as a hot streak when it's been the entire second half of the season?
Yes. Yeah, I think so.
A little hot streak. What do you mean hot streak?
Well, he was at like 370 for most of the year. But it is one of those things where, granted, I think that Posey is definitely a candidate, but if McCutchen or Braun got it, I guess if McCutchen got it, I wouldn't be upset. If Braun got it, I'd be a little upset only because it's kind of tainted with what happened last year.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what happened, yada, yada, yada. But
but the reputation he sort of engendered from it has tainted it a little bit. And that really does play a lot into, because it's, voted on by baseball writers. Right? It plays into it a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's not
just like guys making it
game.
into the Hall of Fame because they were really nice guys and friendly to the media, and so that doesn't mean they weren't otherwise qualified, but sometimes you'll see those guys make it ahead of somebody who maybe the media saw as a little gruff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think too, a big difference between those two candidates and Posey is that Posey's on a team that's 81-62. It's in first place by 7 games, and is playing the hardest.
True, although when we saw
Lincecum
win the Cy Young and even Felix Hernandez win the Cy Young, it is safe to say that they're paying less attention to that now than they used to. I think.
Sure.
That doesn't mean it doesn't factor in. I think that with MVP it does factor in.
I think an MVP
Posey's hit 393 since the break. Okay.
That also factors in a lot.
Mm-hmm. And the Giants went from being a game or 2 down to 7 games up.
Yeah.
No, that means he's valuable.
Yeah, exactly. You're talking about most valuable player.
Has tanked in the second half relatively. I'm not saying he's horrible, but he's gone from 370 to 340. And the Pirates have gone from leading the Central to leading the wild card to now being 2, 3, 4 games back. So when you talk about most valuable player, well, Posey's been more valuable than McCutchen.
No, absolutely. I totally agree. I mean, if I was a writer, I don't care which team I'm a fan of, you got to look at Buster Posey and say, this guy's not only doing that, but he's catching one of the best staffs in baseball. He's playing first base sometimes. He's doing basically anything his team asks of him, and he's shining at every moment of that. He's taken a pretty decent season and turned it into a spectacular season, playing in a ballpark that's not easy to hit in too. So
after a major injury.
Yeah. Coming back, so he's clearly going to win Comeback Player of the Year. But look at the bandbox that Ryan Braun plays in, and look at the Pirates Stadium too, which is much smaller, much easier to hit home runs in. And he's got Buster Posey still got 89 RBIs and 21 home runs. And that's pretty big. And he
leads non-base percentage.
Exactly, and he's on a team that isn't known for its offensive prowess, and he's still getting those RBIs, which means he's hitting in the times when he needs to. So I do think he's right now the leading candidate, and it was kind of nice to see some quote unquote national recognition for that. Which I think
it's hilarious that once we start talking about MVPs, all of a sudden we talk about how 340 is a terrible batting average.
It's not terrible.
No, it's not terrible. That's what we're saying.
It's funny. Andrew McCutchen, really, you got to measure him by the barometer that he started off the season ridiculous.
Hey, look, all of us were in love with him at the beginning of the season. We thought he was going to be the MVP. We wanted him to be a Giant at the beginning of the year. So I mean,
I still wouldn't mind that. I'm not going to lie.
No, I wouldn't mind that.
Let's face it.
Wouldn't mind that either.
If you came by and you asked me would I take a punch to the nuts in order to have Andrew McCutchen become a Giant, I would just be like, lay it on me. That's fine.
But
I'll take it.
Say what you will, but Posey definitely does hit in a harder to hit stadium. And he plays a harder position. And
Agreed.
And he's not fast, so his average being even close to McCutchen beats out ground balls. Buster Posey does not. So Buster Posey, when he gets a hit, he gets a hit. He's got a lot of doubles that turn into singles. So, but I think if I were to say who do I want up, and with 2 outs in the 9th right now, I think I want Buster Posey over McCutchen right now. At the beginning of the year, that would have been I would have said a different answer, I'm sure. But right now, and then going forward, I think Buster Posey definitely has the lead. Let's tweet at each other. Oh no, Armchair Manager. Let's do it. Armchair Manager. Chad, you brought this up, and I think this is a valid point. Would you sit Vogelsong for a start?
Yes.
9+ ERA in last 6 starts.
Well,
even he's down on himself about.
He's got
doing.
more than a start left, and I would have done this a start prior, but he has a horrible ERA his last 6 starts. That's a significant chunk. 6 starts is a significant chunk of his year. Most starters only have 30 to 33 starts per year. So we're talking about a quarter of his starts.
Yeah.
He has over a 9 ERA. He needs to sit down. Maybe he has fatigue. I don't know what's going on, but he even says he's pitching like crap. So he needs to take a seat. I love him to death. He's got the Vogelsong charisma and the mean grin and don't talk to me whatever it
by
is.
crazy, I mean he grunts a lot, but
Yeah.
I am actually
he has been hit hard.
Yeah.
I'm going to disagree with you on this, though. I don't think that sitting
No,
vocal
you
song.
cannot do that on a podcast.
Chad, shut up. I don't think that just sitting vocal song is the answer, and the only reason I say that is because the entire rotation is starting to flag. Bumgarner hasn't looked good in his last 4 starts. Lincecum he's still walking guys, but he looks better than everybody else, which is embarrassing. Zito hasn't necessarily looked that good. He's been on and off. Kane hasn't looked that good. If anything, I feel like we need actually, this is my wild armchair manager suggestion. I feel like we need to have somebody go in and start doing, short 6 starts, 6 day here and there. We need to space them out a little bit, give them a little more time to rest up and heal up, because all of these guys are starting to wear this season, because almost all of them have played the entire season. None of them have really had a lot of time off.
Nobody's gone down.
Other than Vogelsong starting off injured at the very beginning of the season a little bit. None of these guys have been incredibly consistent for us, and the result of that, though, is they're all starting to wear down a little bit. You aren't seeing any of them come out fresh.
I agree that the rest of the starters are not at the top of their game, but he's been the worst out of the 5. So
sure, but
that's what I'm saying.
think that
Maybe
the question is
start just to see if the fatigue comes back in the next start. Just see what happens.
Well,
I mean,
it sounds like
it cannot be worse than what he's done the last 6 starts.
Yeah,
But
They're not going to take
like,
much of a risk by skipping a start.
It sounds like we all are on the same
risk by
mind.
rolling in somebody like Hacker and spacing everybody out. Because all of them need some time off, and I think that all of them are starting to hurt us a little bit.
Right? They need to do something. Something's got to give right now, because right now it's a struggle. But what the answer to that is, we don't know exactly. And obviously, I don't think Bochy knows. I don't think Sabian knows. I think whatever you do, it's just kind of an experiment, But I do think that at this point, you keep running each one of them out there every 5th day, and we're going to run into some issues here.
Do I think they're going to skip him? No, I don't.
I don't think so either.
That's not going to happen.
That's why we armchair manage. None of us think that they're actually going to do it.
No,
exactly.
But here's the thing: if Vogelsong
If
Vogelsong does not turn this around, I do believe he will be the guy to sit if he continues to pitch this way the rest of the year.
Well, he's only got a couple starts left. He's got 6 bad starts in a row. So if he has 2 more starts and 1 or 2 of them are bad, he's going into the playoffs with 7 or 8 bad starts in a row.
Yeah.
That's not good.
No, he'll be the Jonathan Sanchez if he does get in, where he just has a super short leash, which, I'm sure as a player, he wants to get into the playoffs rolling and feeling good about his game.
He went from leading the National League, leading the entire league in ERA, to now being 13th in 6 starts this late in the season. That is almost unheard of.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's
he
pretty bad.
has bombed.
And the thing is, it's if one of the starts in the middle of that streak had been decent and it was sandwiched by a bunch of bad ones, it wouldn't feel so bad. But it's every time he goes out there now, it's not good. And we know all of us root for this guy and we want him to succeed. So
more than anything,
we really hope that whatever it is, it gets figured out. So, I don't know exactly what the answer is. We'll see. Bochy seems to have the magic touch sometimes. We'll see what he comes up with. But let's move on. Let's tweet at me, brah. Chad, you want to start us off?
Yeah, so Brandon McCarthy, he's a fun guy to follow on Twitter.
Definitely.
Really smart guy, really satirical guy, but he was hit in the head with a line drive last week, so he had to have surgery to relieve some of that pressure. He's had a remarkable recovery. His prognosis is excellent. He was right back on Twitter, and I think it was today or yesterday. Yeah, it was today. He was being released from the hospital. So he said, "With this sweet new haircut and homemade Bane mask, I'm off for a big day yelling at tourists in Union Square."
Awesome. Well, I'm glad he's at least still funny, because
I just can't imagine a bald McCarthy with a Bane mask with that Sean Connery type accent in Union Square talking.
I can totally imagine that. That's right up his alley.
Yeah, that was a scary. I mean, Giants fans can remember.
Joe Martinez was not that long ago.
We can remember Joe Martinez
so well tonight. So much so that you will. Never mind. That's a horrible Bane accent.
You see, I can understand you too much. Yeah.
Yeah,
but I mean, we remember Martinez, and we remember how scary that is. And
I saw the Chris Young line drive that he took off of Albert Pujols too. It was like 2 of those in 1 year was just too much.
Yeah. It's just nasty. And you always fear that it's going to happen. As a pitcher, I've pitched, just whatever, but I'm pitching to guys with metal bats, and I've had a couple of balls fly by me, and that is some scary ass right there.
Our last playoff game, we had our pitcher. There was a line drive right back at him, and it hit him in the thigh. So it's not the head, but he had basically a head coming out of his thigh. I mean, that's how hard the ball was hit. I mean, we couldn't even see it. So it happens once in a while. And when you're talking about major league batters, even though they don't have aluminum bats,
no, but they hit
these
the ball.
Guys
they make up for it. Yeah, they
make up for it exactly.
Yeah, and I mean, in McCarthy's case, there was some surgery for an epidural hemorrhage, but they were talking to Brad Ziegler, who even though he's with the Diamondbacks now, he suffered something similar when he was in the minors, and Ziggy kind of pointed out if you catch it quickly, and with baseball players, you catch it quickly because they're looking immediately to make sure things are okay. The rate of return to play is very high.
Yeah.
The tough thing for McCarthy, though, I mean, a guy who's as smart as him is probably going to be just being stuck at home all summer, not being able to do a whole lot for a while.
No, he's not going to be with the A's for the rest of the season or the playoffs.
Yeah, there's no way, because it being too close to the end. As much as it really would be good for them to have him, they are lucky in having Brett Anderson come back. So I mean, they're going to be all right. But yeah, that's a tough one to lose, and it's a tough way to have him go out because everybody's just kind of sitting there watching it happen, going, "Oh, he got hit in the head." And I saw the clip of it, and it was not a pretty hit.
No, it was awful. It was right to the back of the skull too. It was just the worst place to get hit.
He just dropped. It was really rough to see. Yeah. So
I'm going to
best wishes to him.
I'm going to do a tweet from CSN Bags, which is of course Andrew Baggerly, who gets way inside the Giants, in case you didn't know. He tweeted today, well-traveled Scudero would love to re-sign with the Giants. And I, for one, would love to have that guy back the way he's played for us. And just with his versatility around the infield, it's really cool to hear that somebody, like Baggerly, who knows exactly what's going on with the Giants, when he tweets things out, I tend to trust them at this point, is saying that Scudero wants to come back.
Well, Scudero is actually hitting 341 with the Giants, by the way.
Absolutely. Well, here's the thing. He played third base. He filled in at third base when Panda was gone. Now he's at second base. He's displaced Terrio over there, which Terrio is playing very, very good ball. And Scudero's been that good. You can't take him out. And he's played solid defense wherever he's been in the lineup. He seems to be a real good fit in the 2-hole. The guy is a little bit on the older side, but we get one more good year out of him for sure.
Not enough to qualify for Brian Sabienism. So I mean,
yeah, yeah, we know Brian Sabian likes the old guys, so I don't think that's going to sway him.
He's not Orlando Cabrera, so I have to leave it at that.
That's true. But he may be
been really consistent though, and that's been the almost maybe even the most surprising thing about the trade is how solid he's been. Nobody expected him to come in and suddenly hit 340 the rest of the way.
No, hell no.
And he's done that very well. And we don't really have an up and coming second base prospect beyond Joe Panic, who's way down on the totem pole at this stage because he's so young and so new. But so we don't have a lot of depth there.
Yeah.
Nick Noonan. I mean, what have we? Who's floating?
Yeah, I think Sanchez is off the list. We know he's not coming back, and I think Scudero would be a real good fit because he can move around. And with the fact being that Pablo probably goes down at some point in every season, the way things have been going in his career, it's good to have guys who can move all over the diamond. So him and Arias, those are two great backups right there, or starters depending on how well they're playing. So I think having Scudero there, it makes sense. It makes total sense for the Giants. So I'm glad to see that he wants to play here and he's having a good time. All right, let's have some favorite guys. Chad, start us off.
Aubrey Huff has had a tough season. Let's just put it that way. So he's had a good week in Colorado with a couple of pinch hits. But before that, he had a little bit of a happy hand, shall we say. So after a home game against the Dodgers on a Friday night, he celebrated a run by the Giants by slapping Terrio in the ass. And on national television, he was shaking his hand after he slapped Terrio's ass. So that has been immortalized by a GIF, and it'll be up on the TorchCast site, but it is fantastic. So he's going to be a good hitting coach someday, maybe next year, the year after, but that was good.
We all knew that Terrio was, has been ironclad since he got back from that shoulder injury. So
I think
that's just further proof.
Yeah, little gluteus maximus implants or something.
Guy's little and built. You want to play in the major leagues at that stature, you gotta be solid.
Man's got a tough butt, the toughest butt on the Giants. I'm going to pick Jeff Kent, who I'm not a huge fan of most of the time, except for his baseball playing. But as a man, I haven't always been a huge fan of the guy. I mean, we all remember the washing the truck incident. We all remember the fight with Barry Bonds in the dugout. We remember some of that stuff. We also remember 2002 and how great he was as a Giant and back-to-back MVPs between him and Bonds. And, we remember all that stuff as well. But now he's on Survivor. And if there's one thing that can make me watch Survivor, it's an ex-Giant being on that show.
Erin has already stated she's coming over to my house just because I have a television, and she does not strictly to watch Survivor Philippines.
So that hasn't started yet?
No, they've already recorded it, though. It's over, and so we don't know if he won or not. But, because he's contractually not supposed to say. But it is all done, but it hasn't started airing yet. So I'm going to watch. This is the one season I will watch. A guy who walks around naked all the time, that's not going to make me watch Survivor. Jeff Kent on Survivor? Yes, let's do this. So I'm excited for that, and I'll be watching. My new favorite guy. All right, Ben, hit us up.
I have the feeling that between Jeff Kent and the fact it's Survivor Philippines, the highest concentration of viewership is absolutely going to be the Bay Area.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Because there's two things we've got. It's Giants fans and Filipinos out here.
That's right.
I'd live in Daly City, so, don't blame me. My favorite guy is actually going to be Ryan Vogelsong. He's playing terribly right now. Yeah, all right. We all can kind of see that. But here's the thing. Last Friday, I was actually fortunate enough to hang out with my buddy Josh, who won the Nike VIP experience contest. So before the game on Friday against the Dodgers, I actually got to go into the Giants executive offices, get some free Nike swag, just a little bit, and it's all extra large. So it's kind of drapey on me. I'm a real tiny guy.
Weight, dude.
That'll
see what I can do. But after that, we actually they gave us some baseballs. We actually got to go down into the dugout during batting practice, meet Vogelsong, shake his hand, chat with him a little bit. Although none of us really knew what to say because I didn't really want to talk about the embarrassing All-Star Game jersey story that I've mentioned on the podcast before. You'll have to go back and find it.
That's what you should mention.
I realized that later. I mean, duh. Nope, didn't figure that out in time. And then we got to hang out on the field. We watched batting practice. We got to shake hands with Henry Schillman. Bags came by. We took a photo with him. It was a pretty awesome experience just getting to hang out down there, see some of the guys playing, chat with a Giant staffer or two.
Why have none of these pictures appeared on TortureCast?
I didn't take any of them. I'm waiting to get some of them from some of the others who took them. I didn't take very many photos myself. But it was a crazy experience. Ryan Vogelsong is a real nice guy. He was willing to sound a couple of balls for us in the middle of a playoff race when he's not feeling too good about his own performance. And, he's a class act. He's such a good story. He's not playing well. Sure. There's always the manager side of me that's going to say, hey, maybe you need to give him a day off. Maybe we need to scoot the rotation around. Maybe he's just not playing too good. Should he be on the playoff roster? Those questions are always going to be there. But guys like Vogelsong and stories like that, everybody who listens to the podcast knows I love me a good baseball story. And the fact that I, got to meet him and say, hey, chat with him a little in the dugout, that I don't even I still have times where I go back and I go, did that actually happen? Or I don't know if I'm remembering that right, but it was a crazy experience. And so Vogelsong's got to be my favorite guy of the week.
That's awesome.
All right. Okay. I don't have anybody to hate on, but go ahead, Chad. Hate on somebody. We should hate this guy. That's the segment. I love yours, by the way. I love yours.
We're continuing the Niner, I guess, good feeling from last year where they made it almost to the Super Bowl. But anyway, the Niners did win their opening game in Green Bay at Lambeau, 30-22, which
over a 15-1 team from last year, by the way.
Yes, yeah. Which by the way I thought was absolutely incredible. Well, Boys to Men is apparently, and I love that group. I did not know this. They're from Philly, so this is why it's surprising.
Right. So
they're
Nate
apparently
Morris, at least. Nate Morris from Boys
at
to
least
Men.
Nate Morris. Yeah, Nate Morris is a Niner fan, and according to him, and it was confirmed by Aaron Rodgers himself, there was a bet that if the Niners won, Aaron Rodgers had to wear just a Niners jersey, I guess, a Niners jersey the rest of the week. And so, of course, the Niners won, and the media hit him with that and said, "Where's your Niners jersey?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah, about that. That was just a silly bet. Didn't really mean anything." So,
Wow.
Boys to Men obviously has said, no, this was a serious bet. And Aaron Rodgers confirmed that it was a, quote, bet, but he just didn't think it was serious enough to actually go through with the penalty. So apparently Aaron Rodgers is a pussy.
You don't want to make Boys to Men mad, because when you make Boys to Men mad, not only do you make Boys to Men mad, but you make ABC and BVD mad.
Oh,
that's
and
the East
DVD.
Coast family.
Yeah.
So
The East Coast family.
Yeah. You
Come
know
on.
what I mean?
You make everybody angry.
East
for
Coast
Montgomery
family.
Back again.
You know what? If I'm Aaron Rodgers, I put that jersey on and I sport it immediately. I'm a man
At least
of my
a
word.
day.
Come
At
on.
least a day. And
Yeah.
Like, at least
that was
make
enough.
one public appearance.
Yeah,
you
That's
know,
pretty
so we
bad.
can be like,
That's
all
pretty
right,
bad.
all right. Yeah, I mean, clearly Aaron Rodgers isn't getting his discount double checks done.
We can also hate Aaron Rodgers, right? Because we didn't pick him, and then he turned out to be so great. And
And because he was a star at Cal, and so we all watched him.
Hey, I like the guy. And the Niners
Sure.
should have drafted him, but whatever.
hey, but you know what?
It's worked out okay.
It's working out okay at this point. Sure, we had some rough patches, and we wished we had him. But
We had a
I don't
lot
know
of
if
rough
he would have
patches
turned
with
out
Alex Smith, but hey,
yeah, we
he's
don't
doing
know if
really
he would
well
have
right
turned
now.
out better than Alex Smith has turned out, considering a new
He's in the
offensive
latest
coordinator
Nike
here.
commercial. Did you see that?
No.
Did not.
Awesome.
Did not.
Oh, it's a sweet commercial. Yeah, they have like 6 or 7 different NFL players. They have Larry Fitzgerald and Alex Smith, and anyway, it's all high tech and everything. But it's just weird to see number 11 in a red 49ers jersey,
like on-
slow mo passing in a Nike white.
I'm still weirded out when Giants
modern
appear in these commercials
collar or
sometimes.
something.
So,
It's weird. It's
Yeah,
weird.
getting any recognition is crazy.
Yeah.
All right, Ben,
Yeah.
hate on somebody for us.
all right. Well, I'm gonna hate Matt Kemp.
Cool. I fully support that.
That's basically all I got. I'm
All right.
gonna hate Matt Kemp.
Yeah, no,
It's that time of year. I'm just gonna pick a Dodger. I'm gonna hate him.
Say
and
no
that's-
more. Say no
Exactly.
more.
Dodgers.
I'm good. We're done.
All right. Let's
Done.
talk about why we will win it all before we go, because we like to finish the podcast on a high note here. So, Chad, why are we going to win it all?
My freaking just pessimism just is coming out here. So
Stop
no
it. Stop
collapse.
it.
I know.
Stop it.
I know.
Stop it.
So in the last 19 games, no collapse. Play 500. You got it. You got it, guys. No problem. Come on now. So take care of the Reds when they get in the playoffs, because that's most likely who they're going to play. Because, it's against Dusty Baker. They'll be fine.
Yeah.
Have someone repeat like Cody Ross a couple of home runs in the NLCS. And then
I say
if
it's
they
going to be
get into
Scooter
the World Series
That.
at that point, if it's like wouldn't it be kind of weird if it was like a black and orange World Series, the Giants and Orioles or something like that?
Wow.
Anyway,
I think
I know,
it'd
that would be
hilarious if it was
strange.
Another Battle of the Bay, and we finally got a rematch without an earthquake in it from '84.
That would be cool, too.
That
be
would
right.
be
Totally okay with
my
that.
Or
ultimate wish.
89, excuse me.
Ultimate
Wrong
wish, as long as the A's didn't win. Anyway, get the Blarney Stone over from Ireland, and they got it. No
All
problem.
right. I dig it. Ben, why don't you give us one before I finish this off here?
I'm gonna go with 13. 13 is the lucky number for us right now, because any combination of Dodger losses and Giant wins that add up to 13 means that we are clinching our spot as NL West champions. We got 19 games to go, so out of 19 games, either we win 13, they lose 13. We win 7, they lose 6. We win 7, they lose 6, and we're in. I mean, think about that for a second. We've built up a pretty steady thing here, and as we know, this team it's not necessarily built for the playoffs, but you got a lot more guys who have been there and won it, coming back and bringing in some more experience to the table. So I mean, I'm pretty optimistic about, which is a nice change from some of the things we used in this segment during 2011.
No
so
kidding.
I'm feeling a lot better than I did this time
Lucky
last year.
13, everybody. Lucky 13. I dig it. I'm going to say that we win it all because of Nationals general manager Mike Rizzo. He's a douchebag. He's shutting down the best pitcher in the National League right now because of science that's completely untested and unproven, and nobody knows if this actually does any good.
Memes are fantastic out there.
Oh, there's some
Veteran
good ones.
grit.
But here's the thing. You can't assume that you're going to have some kind of weird, crazy run of 12 straight. You're not going to be the Braves all of a sudden. That doesn't just happen all the time because you got some good young players. I'm sorry.
This is the question I have for Mike Rizzo. He has a couple of starts left in the regular season. What are the chances he's going to blow out his arm then?
No,
almost
he doesn't,
infinitesimal.
actually. They've already shut him down.
No, he's shut down. He's done.
No, I know that. I'm saying if he were to pitch the rest of the year, he has 2 more starts. He's not going to blow out his arm in the last 2 starts.
But they're not even worried about that.
Then they go into the playoffs.
They're not worried about him blowing his arm out. They're worried about him doing damage to this surgically repaired arm. He goes too many innings, whatever. But it's stupid. It's ridiculous.
But they're going to track whoever his replacement is throughout the playoffs. And if he has a horrible track record and they don't win the World Series, then everybody's going to say,
if they don't win the World Series, Mike Rizzo needs to get fired. And that's for real. Like, you can't do this. You can't take your best player.
What else do you play for?
Yeah, why are you playing baseball?
My question is, why didn't you shut him down earlier when it looks like the team is, going to end up having the best record in baseball and go to the playoffs?
Yeah, and then bring him back or not start him at the beginning of the year.
And when a rookie gets you that far, what do you do if you get to the playoffs and suddenly you tell the same rookie you're basically part of you and Gio Gonzalez are the reason we got here, so ride the bench, buddy.
Yeah, which part of the season is more important?
Do you think there's
April
any chance
or
if his
October?
replacement is tanking, like 10 ERA and 2 or 3 or 4
You think
starts,
they bring him off the bench?
and they're on the brink of elimination?
Well, he'd have to
and
be on the
his turn up,
25-man roster.
Do you think they bring him back?
You have to put him on the playoff roster,
Yeah.
or else somebody has to get hurt from the playoff roster
But
for you
they're
to
not gonna-
replace him with Steven Strasburg.
If he's shut down, they're not going to put him on the roster saying, well, maybe we'll use him. That'd just be like torture for the poor
No,
kid.
that's only 25 players. You're shorting yourself a man.
Yeah,
and
no.
you can't do that during the postseason because everything is, it's jammed so close together and the stress is so much higher.
They screwed themselves,
No.
I think.
And here's the thing. Here's why I'm saying that we will win it all because of this. Because the Nationals have had our number all year long. We're going to beat the Reds. We're going to play the Nationals. They're going to take care of the wild card team. And we're going to go up against them without Strasburg. And that's going to make a huge difference, not only psychologically to the Giants, but psychologically to the Nationals. And it's going to sway that entire series because they are not going to feel good about things when they get into the playoffs, and it's a much more of a struggle than it should be because their general manager decided to make it that way. And I'm sorry, if I'm playing for the Nationals, if I'm Strasburg, I cannot wait to get away from Washington. I just cannot wait until I'm done with Washington because I would not want to ever be on a team that would do this to me. I can't believe that this is happening. I cannot believe it. I'm so just like, it's ridiculous. These are the professional baseball players. You don't shut them down when they're having fantastic years just because they got hurt last year. That's stupid. Anyway, and let's ask Rob Nen and Brian Wilson what they think about that. I'd love to hear their take. All right,
well,
so
we can't because one can't pitch anymore and the other is on the DL. So
exactly,
about
but
that.
guess what? Both of them went to the World Series. Both of them got to Game 7 of the World Series. One worked out well, one didn't, but I don't think either one of them trades that experience for anything.
That's fair.
All right, so thank you for listening to episode 38, the Brian Wilson episode, by the way. Which
you got a little fiery, fury, and beardy.
That was, yeah.
Beardy, baby.
For this episode, I want to tell everybody if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can follow us at TortureCast. You can also follow us individually. Chad is at ChadK21. Ben is at Fried Duck. And I am at Willie Dills. Also, go to our blog. It's torturecast.com. You can also like us on Facebook. There's places to leave donations for us if you like it. You could give 5-star reviews on iTunes. You can do all that kind of stuff. It's great.
Right? It's a nice letter.
Yeah, we love all that.
How come you never write?
Email us, torturecast@gmail.com. Mail at torturecast.com. You can also email us individually. It's just our names at torturecast.com. You can do that too if you want. And of course, we want to thank Ash, Khan, and Bailey for letting us use their theme song. I want to tell everybody, go listen to the Giants pod guys. Those guys are great. And they're our direct competition, but I don't really feel like we're in competition. I feel like we just support each other. So go check those guys out. And that's going to do it for episode 38. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Chad. Thank everybody for listening. We'll see you next time. Boom. A big thank you to everybody for listening to the TortureCast, the podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants. Follow us on Twitter at TortureCast. You can also like us on Facebook or check out our blog at torturecast.com. I also want to say thank you to Ashcon and Bailey for letting us use their song Feeling Like a Giant for our intro. For Ben Lee and Chad King, my name is Willie Dills saying, we'll see you next time.